Hi guys, welcome to Inside CDM, where we discuss topics and trends within customer data management.
Hi guys, welcome to today's episode. My name is Jesper Kask and with me I have Andreas Selén. We're here today to talk about file deliveries in customer data management, a topic that we're receiving a lot of questions from customers about. And just to get us started, Andreas, what is a file delivery when it comes to customer data management?
Yeah, so the files are basically put together with the information that the client is interested in, and then it is put on an SFTP area, for example, where the customer at a given point know that the files is going to end up. Then the customer can have a scheduled job or a script or something that looks in this file area, downloads these files, and then do whatever they want to do with it on their end. This is the normal way of doing things, and it normally means that the files are fetched once a day. Either it's like bulk data that is like the complete set of data for a specific data points, or it is a subset which might be derived from the customer sending in their register of customers to be able to know which ones should be delivered and so on. The normal way is that this is done once a day, as I said, and with a lot of data in each step, like basically what has changed over the last day.
Okay. Now there are different ways of doing this when it comes to file deliveries. Could you send and retrieve data in different manners, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, you could use a number of different formats for the files, of course, and I mean, you could potentially be sending files several times every day and so on, but it's all making it more complex and so on. And when you have different parts of it, you normally have like different files because you need to have relations between these and then send them in like that.
And what are some of the most common issues or problems that companies encounter when they work with file deliveries or customer data in general?
Yeah, so looking at the file delivery side, I mean, you put a lot of effort into parsing the data that you actually receive in the file. So if you get bulk data, you need to go through all these records that you actually receive and look at what are you going to do with this piece of information, right? As opposed to having different ways of delivering data, that we're going to get into.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and one of the things that we talk a lot about is the push and pull methods of it.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit more?
Exactly. So this is a very like a pull situation. It's just like when you have like APIs, for example. You as a customer say that I want this piece of information, and you ask for it. And it's the same with this, even though it also has this element of a contract where you know that they are going to put the file with the information that you want at a given time. But then it's still you who initiates the communication, so you have to look in this file area around that time where the file is supposed to end up there, and then try to fetch it. It's on the client, the customer side to initiate the communication. That's the pull part of it. And then you have the push part, where it instead is the company delivering the actual business information that sends it over to the customer, which is like a notification in your cell phone. So what actually happens then is that the company with the business information can just, when something happens, send the information to you. So basically, you pull, you are fetching the information from the source, and in push you are getting it from the source as notifications or just deliver the data. And I mean, in this sense, when it's all about the information that gets updated at the source, there is really no sense in the customer needing to go fetch it and go look, is there anything that has happened? Is there anything that has happened? Over and over, instead of just getting the information delivered.
So staying on the push and the notification side of things, how would that work in practice?
Yeah, so of course, when looking at the push area, there's a lot of ways to send notifications to a receiving end. We have pops up patterns, or we have the way of sending streaming data and so on. But a very common way of doing this is through Webhooks, where we basically are using normal HTTP communication, where the client or the customer holds an endpoint where the holder or the source of the data actually can send the information to them instead. This makes it possible to in this push situation to actually react to changes instead of trying to themselves find and be proactive on their end. Yeah, so I guess there's two parts. It's of course good for the data supplier in the sense that we can more easily just chop things up and just we can deliver it on a event based, like item by item, instead of bunching it together into file deliveries. We can also align in the sense that we send one event that we can just spread out to all the customers that are interested in this particular part. It's a lot more easy to manage in the end for the supplier. But this is also spilling over into the client, which doesn't have to get a big heap of data in a file, but instead receive each and every event separated and can decide if they want to handle it or not directly on the endpoint.
Okay. And what does this enable from a customer perspective, this way of doing things?
Yeah, enables all kinds of notifications might be enabling them to be proactive or to be reactive in their business. But this with the Webhooks scenario, where we deliver one item for every update, they can skip having to do a lot of parsing of the files, having to do a lot of handling on their own side, and instead just get readily formed structures of data and just the data they're interested in. Then we have another part that is separated from the push-pull discussion, which handles the customer data, part of the elements of it. And that is that traditionally the customers, as I said earlier, they send over their customers to the data supplier, which then can know what to inform the customers about. Here there are a lot of possibilities where you can just try to notify all changes to all customers and let them decide if this is interesting or not.
Yeah.
Meaning they don't have to give up anyone their customers, which is very sensitive.
Yes. So you don't necessarily have to share your customer registry or customer lists.
Exactly. And when not having to do that, of course there's always the data is logged and so on, but there is no long-term held registry of all customers. And also as a data supplier, you normally supply data to a lot of different customers. Maybe that might be a deal breaker for some clients, that my data is not going to be held anywhere near to my competitors' data and so on.
And from a GDPR perspective, there has to be something in it as well, I guess.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all the legislations about keeping personal data is tough. And I mean, if there is none kept, then of course it's easier. But I mean, there is still personal data being handled here, so I mean, there are aspects of it that needs to be taken care of. So. And of course, the logging, but the big difference being that the logging is just kept for a few months and then it's thrown out, and it's only going to be at any point of time a fraction of the customers that a client has that are in the log files.
Is there an issue as well when you handed over your customer registry to a third party that this registry can change over time and that you need to keep it up to date as well?
Yeah, of course. So it puts a burden on the customer to actually tell the supplier about the changes in their customer base, which doesn't have to happen in this case either, because the notifications are sent for everything, and the customer on their end, of course, have knowledge of which ones are their customers and can decide if this information is interesting.
Yeah. So to me, it sounds like one of the questions we get on a regular basis is regarding just file deliveries and how they work and how it's supposed to happen. It seems to be a bit of a misconception that it has to be sort of a large batch file delivery on a regular basis in order to properly keep track of your customer database.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and I think it's just been done that way for a very, very long time, and it's hard to try to understand that there are new ways to deliver data, and that technology have changed in the way that makes it possible to send streaming data or like send large amount of do large amounts of calls to endpoints and so on, without it being a problem for the receiving end or the sender. Capacity-wise, with the technology era we live in, sending large amounts of data with single calls and so on is not going to be a problem, which means that we don't have to stay in the old world of sending batches of data in files.
Okay, Andreas, so to summarize, what would you say?
Well, there are two ways to deliver or communicate data, and that is between either it's push or it's pull communication. The second part is that there is a misconception in the industry that we are supposed to handle this communication of data through file deliveries. It's something that we should try, a bubble that we should try to pop.
And lastly, there seems to be another misconception that you actually have to hand over your customer data or customer registry to a third party in order to keep it up to date properly.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. That was it for this episode where we talked about data and data delivery. If you have any questions or anything else that you want to ask us about, please feel free to do so in the comments or through our website, roaring.io.